I never expected to ruin my family's future when I bought a house in secret. The day I made that impulsive decision, the walls seemed to close in, and the air crackled with tension. I could still feel the rush of adrenaline, that wild thrill of hope. But now, I stand in the crumbling doorway, staring into the abyss of my choices. The house was beautiful in its own way, with peeling paint that whispered stories of better days. Sunlight streamed through grime-streaked windows, illuminating dust motes that danced in the silence. It felt alive but also haunted. I could hear shadows echoing my heartbeat, loud and frantic, as I stepped inside. Every creak of the floorboards beneath my trembling feet sent chills racing up my spine, that I was supposed to be searching for a new beginning. My partner, Maya, had been pushing for a fresh start, something we could call our own. A sanctuary where family dreams would blossom. We had laughed about paint colors and kitchen layouts, but deep down anxiety gnawed at me. Could I really take this leap? The secret was a weight I carried alone. I knew Maya would be ecstatic, but also confused. She wanted transparency. The last thing I wanted was for her to feel betrayed. Her laughter echoed in my mind, further fueling my dread. 2 weeks of sleepless nights dragged on, and the urgency to tell her grew, but so did my fear. What if she didn't understand? Would this fracture everything? I sighed, fingers brushing the cool, cracked walls. Memories of my childhood flooded back. My family had craved stability, a place that felt safe. But all we had was an overflowing bag of regrets. I could still see my mother's tired eyes, the way her hands trembled when she thought no one was watching. I didn't want pity, I wanted to rise above it all. Yet here I was, teetering on the brink of disaster. What if this house holds secrets? The thought latched onto me, a silent scream in the stillness. I closed my eyes, steadying my breath. When I opened them again, I felt as if the house was watching me, judging my choices. The air felt thick, charged with whispers of anxiety. I could swear I heard soft sounds, a distant sob. Or maybe it was just my imagination spiraling out of control that I reached for the doorknob, my hand shaking. The house felt like a ticking time bomb. Was it filled with promise or impending doom? I tried to shake the feeling, but as it turned out, the walls could hold more than memories. I was stepping into a deliberately woven web of fate where every choice mattered. Then the door creaked ominously behind me. I turned slowly, heart thundering. Was someone there? A figure flickered in the shadows, unmistakable yet unrecognizable. Panic surged through me, my chest constricting tight. Before I could process the sight, the floor creaked once more, pulling me back into the moment. I had to decide. Was this house a blessing or a curse? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The creaking floorboards echoed louder than my racing heart as I stepped into the unknown. I squinted into the dim light, trying to make sense of the flickering shadow that danced in the corner of the room. My breath quickened, and the air felt charged, as if it carried the weight of regrets yet to be voiced. Hello. My voice was a mere whisper, barely breaking the stillness. There was no reply, just the persistent silence wrapping around me like an unwelcome shroud. I took a tentative step forward, gathering courage from the moment I had entered this space, but the discomfort gnawed at my insides. This was my secret, this was my choice. But the doubt lingered like a specter, refusing to let go. Just as I thought to turn back, the whisper of cloth against wood caught my ear. I turned abruptly, my heart dropping as I identified the figure Maya. Relief washed over me, but quickly transformed into a wave of guilt, as I realized the unspoken weight of my hidden decision. Her expression was unreadable, a mixture of concern and confusion. "What are you doing here?" she asked, her voice soft yet firm, eyes searching mine for solace I hadn't yet found. I shuffled my feet, my mouth dry. This was the moment I had both dreaded and longed for. "Wanted to show you something," I stammered. gesturing at the decaying walls that seemed to glow under Maya's presence. Her shoulders tensed, and I could see the questions brewing beneath the surface, the need for explanation. The distance between us felt palpable, a chasm forged by secrets. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked quietly, her brows knitting together. I stepped closer, reaching out to grasp her hands, feeling their warmth against my own cold palms. That I thought, "I hoped you would understand. I just wanted to create something real for us, a home." I rushed out, each word a delicate thread weaving my hopes into a fragile tapestry of trust. "But this isn't just about you," she replied, the hurt sharpening her voice. "We were supposed to do this together. You kept me in the dark. What if this house is just a facade for our problems?" My chest tightened even more. The truth hung heavily between us, a palpable reminder of how easily the foundations of our relationship could crumble. I could see her heart, open and vulnerable, wrapped in layers of disappointment. "I was scared," I confessed, my voice breaking slightly. "Scared that you'd hate the idea, that this would ruin everything we've dreamed of." For a moment her eyes flickered with sympathy, and my heart dared to hope. "We can make it work, right? Together?" I wanted to believe those words would stitch the rift that had begun to tear us apart. But Maya withdrew slightly, pulling her hands away and crossing her arms defensively. "I don't know. I need time to process this," she whispered, turning her gaze toward a cracked window that framed the fading daylight. I could feel the shadows deepen, grasping at us like fingers eager to drag us into their endless embrace. With each moment of silence, my resolve buckled under the weight of uncertainty. How could I hold this fragile dream when I had jeopardized its very foundation? Suddenly, an unexpected sound broke our tense standoff. A soft, almost melodic chime echoed through the air, as if the house itself had responded to our emotional turmoil. I glanced at Maya, confusion clouding her face. "What was that?" she asked, frowning at the walls. "I don't know," I replied, but my curiosity piqued. I moved cautiously toward the source of the sound, instinctively drawn toward it. With each step, I could feel the mysterious heartbeat of the house intensifying, almost alive with stories yearning to be told. Maya hesitated for a moment but then followed, the distance between us tightening in shared intrigue. Our previous anger morphed into tentative curiosity as we wandered deeper into the shadowy hallways, unsure of what we might uncover. The chime led us to the doorway of a small, cluttered room, the door slightly ajar. The light fought its way through the stray beams of dust, outlining objects trapped beneath layers of forgotten history. With trembling hands, I pushed the door open. Inside was a scene frozen into Mia child's room, adorned with faded colors and toys that whispered of innocence lost. But it was what sat against the far wall that shocked us both. A chest, intricately carved, almost beckoning to us with an allure we could not resist. My pulse quickened at the realization that the house might be hiding more than just memories. It held secrets, perhaps even answers to the questions we had yet to ask. As I reached for the chest, a loud crash erupted behind us, vibrating through the house. Startled, I jerked back, my heart racing. The floor trembled momentarily, and the world felt chaotic, destabilizing everything I thought I understood about this place, about Maya, about my choices. A chilling thought ran through me like a current. Had I stumbled into something far more complicated than a simple hidden house? The foundations of not only our future, but our very reality were now in flux. I turned to Maya, her face pale, uncertainty mirrored in her eyes as we faced the unsettling unknown together. "Maybe this house isn't just a burden after all," I whispered, though doubt clawed at my chest. "What if it holds the keys to our past and future?" But just as Maya opened her mouth to respond, a loud rumble echoed through the structure, the walls shaking ominously. A chill swept through the air, stopping us both in our tracks. And right then, as fear wrapped around me once again, the door slammed shut behind us, sealing our fate and the house's secrets inside with us. What lay ahead remained shrouded in darkness, but it was clear that the journey had only just begun. The air hung heavy with dread and anticipation, suffocating in its silence after the door thundered shut, echoing like a final declaration of war against our fragile reality. I turned to Maya, her silhouette framed by the dim light filtering through the dusty window, and I felt the sharp stabs of panic clawing at my throat. "Well, what just happened?" Her voice trembled slightly, the strength I had grown accustomed to wavering as uncertainty stole her confidence. I took a cautious step toward the door, pressing my palm against the aged wood. Maybe it's just the foundation settling, I said, though my own voice wavered with insincerity. Deep down, I could sense the house stirring, its history alive and tangled with ours. The cracking wood and groans felt almost like a heartbeat, echoing the pulse of something ancient and untamed. Maya moved closer, her expression shifting from confusion to determination. Open it. We need to get out of here. Each word was laced with an urgency I had taken for granted that I grasped the handle, twisting it in earnest, but it remained stubbornly locked. It won't budge, I said, desperation freezing my fingers. It's like it's stuck. Stuck? She furrowed her brow, a flicker of defiance flickering in her eyes. Or perhaps it doesn't want us to leave. Her words sent shivers down my spine. This house, laden with secrets, was more than just wood and stone. It was a vessel of memories, of dreams and disappointments that intertwined with our OW&AS. I turned back to search for alternatives. I caught sight of the chests. We had almost forgotten it amid the chaos. It now felt like a portal to truths buried deep in its confines, secrets waiting to be unearthed. Maybe it holds something, answers, perhaps, I suggested hesitantly. Unsure of how much of this I believed myself. That Maya's eyes lit with a spark of hope mingled with trepidation, and she slowly approached the chest. Let's see what's inside. We can't hide from this anymore, she declared, her resolve returning like a flame rekindled after a storm. I nodded, my heart racing as we stood before the chest, the dusty surface challenging us as if gauging our intentions. On three, I said, feeling the tension mount. 1, 2, 3. We both lifted the heavy lid together, and a rush of stale air escaped, carrying the scent of neglect and nostalgia. Inside lay an assortment of items, each cloaked in a veil of dust-old photographs, crumpled letters, and an assortment of toys long forgotten. My eyes widened as I lifted an old photograph, dust swirling into the light. It depicted a family, smiles bright against a backdrop of a similar house. The similarities were striking their eyes, their features. It was a mirror into what could have been. That Maya asked softly, peering over my shoulder. Your family? I nodded, barely able to find my voice. The reality crashed over me, a tidal wave of emotions battling within. This was my great-grandparents' home, I whispered. I didn't know I was connected to it in such a profound way. The weight of history pressed down on us, and I sensed the stirred shadows around us growing heavier. Maya reached for a tattered letter lying beneath a cracked toy, a delicate, hand-painted figurine of a child holding a key. As she unfolded it, the stark emotion in her expression deepened. It's a letter from your great-grandmother, she murmured, her voice cracking. Read it. The command came from deep within me, driven by an urgency to confront the truths buried beneath generations. Maya glanced over the swirling letters, her eyes widening in shock. She talks about a curse, how this house holds sorrow for those who dare to seek its secrets, that once the door closes, it can never really be reopened. Are you serious? I felt my pulse race as dread clawed at my insides, every word echoing my worst fears. What curse? Before she could answer, the walls vibrated again, a deep resonating echo, demanding our attention. The shadows converging around us pulsed like an ominous heartbeat, and Maya clutched my arm tightly. Whatever enigma this house holds, it's not just memories. We might have awakened something, she said, her voice trembling with both fear and resolve. Just then the chest rattled violently. We both stumbled back as a shimmering light seeped through the cracks, creating an intricate design on the floor, a map sprawling with paths that twisted and turned, seemingly to nowhere. What does it mean? I gasped, overwhelmed by both dread and fascination. I don't know, but we have to find out. This house has more to reveal. Maya's courage ignited something within me, a resolve to face the unfolding mystery together, even as the stakes grew higher. And then from the depths of the shadows, I heard a soft whisper, echoing through the room. A voice I recognized but hadn't heard in years. It was familiar and haunting, a ghost of my past calling out to me. You shouldn't have come back. The words hit like ice-cold water, freezing the moment in time. A shudder ran through me, and I turned to Maya. Our eyes locked in a shared understanding. There was no turning back now. The house held its breath, daring us, challenging our bond and forcing us to confront what lay ahead and perhaps, who we truly were together. The whisper echoed again, laced with a chilling familiarity that sent tremors through my body. It felt as if the air around us thickened, each dust particle suspended in a conspiratorial dance. Maya's grip tightened on my arm. "Do you hear that?" she asked, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and determination. It's someone from my past," I stammered, memories colliding like runaway trains in my mind. The voice belonged to my late grandmother, a woman whose tales of this house had colored my childhood with intrigue and fear. I could almost hear her warnings echoing through the halls of my memory, each admonition wrapped in love and concern. "What did she say?" Maya urged quietly, sensing the weight of the moment. "She warned me about the house." I struggled to articulate the fragmented pieces of my past. "She said it was a place of sorrow, that we should never return," but every word felt like a ghost story, something to keep children from mischief. I hesitated, confusion swirling within me. I never realized how seriously I should have taken it. Maya's eyes searched mine, her resolve unwavering. "Then we need to unravel the truth. Whatever it is, we can't let it trap us here. But first, we should follow the map." She pointed at the gleaming lines glowing from the chest. With a knot forming in my stomach, I nodded. "Okay. Let's see where it leads." Together we stepped through the doorway, each crack in the floorboards beneath our feet reverberating like a warning bell. The map illuminated paths stretching across what felt like centuries of memories. Distorted images flickered in my mind, the laughter of children, the cries of despair, the echoes of my grandmother explaining why we'd left. As we ventured deeper into the labyrinth of the house, we found ourselves in a hallway bathed in shadows. The air grew thick, alive with whispers. "You shouldn't be here, leave while you can," each sentence draping over us like a damp cloak of unease. That we finally reached a door set apart from the rest, ancient carvings lining its frame, each depicting a family in various states of despair and joy. The threshold beckoned with a presence that was compelling yet forbidding. "This must be it," I whispered, feeling an inexplicable pull toward the door. "It has to be linked to the map." My hand hovered over the doorknob, the wood warm beneath my palm. "Do you think we can open it?" Maya asked, a spark of fear hidden beneath her resolute facade. "We have to try." Together, we pushed, the door creaking open reluctantly, letting out a sigh that felt like the release of untold burdens. As we stepped into the room, a gust of wind slammed the door behind us, plunging us into darkness. The room was dimly lit by a single flickering bulb swinging precariously from the ceiling, casting jagged shadows against the walls, revealing more of the haunting stories entangled in its history. Old, rotting furniture lay scattered about, and at the center of the room was a weathered table, laden with mementos from the pasta doll, a cracked mirror, and a fraying lace shawl. Maya approached the table and reached for the shawl, lifting it with a care that made it seem alive. "This belonged to someone in your family, didn't it?" she asked softly, tracing the delicate patterns with her fingers. I felt a weight in my heart as I realized what it meant. "Yes, my grandmother. She wore it often." A sudden memory surged, the way it wrapped around her shoulders as she shared stories of long-lost family. I gazed into the cracked mirror. Something flickered in the reflection, an apparition. A woman shrouded in whispers, her face indistinguishable yet familiar, holding out her hand toward me. I could feel the air around me change, sharpening like a blade. "What are you doing here?" she whispered fiercely, the urgency in her voice resonating deep within. "Maya, did you see that?" I gasped, clutching my heart as the chill enveloped me. "I think I just saw her." "What?" "Oh." Maya spun around, her anxieties colliding with the miraculous yet terrifying encounter playing out before us. But before I could answer, the shadows entwined, coiling around us like serpents, the atmosphere thickening once more, and the walls of the room began to pulse with a disquieting energy. I felt Maya's hand slip from mine. "Look," she cried, pointing at the wall behind the table where light began to flicker, revealing an inscription carved deep into the wood. "Only those that confront their fears shall find the key." I read aloud, my voice trembling. The room's temperature dropped sharply, every breath I took feeling like shards of ice embedded in my lungs. "Confront our fears?" Maya whispered. But before she could elaborate, the shadows surged, and the door behind us shook violently, threatening to close us in. "Hold the light," I shouted, instinctively reaching for the lamp perched beside the table. dragging it toward us as we stood our ground. Fear coursed through my veins, but beneath it all, a flicker of defiance stirred. We weren't leaving without answers. That's when we both heard the unmistakable sound of a child's laughter, echoing through the darkness, drawing us deeper into the room's web. We have to follow it, don't we? Maya said, determination flashing in her eyes, urging me onward. But in the back of my mind, doubt gnawed at me. What awaited us beyond the laughter? In that moment, I felt the full weight of our decision, the past pushing against us like an unyielding force. As we stepped forward, the shadows twisted and surged, and above the laughter, a single voice rose clear, echoing ominously. You shouldn't have come home. My heart dropped as the realization hit me like a crashing wave. The house wasn't merely a keeper of secrets. It was alive, and it knew exactly what we were looking for. The laughter faded into a haunting echo as we made our way toward the source of the sound, each step heavy with trepidation. I felt as though the air around us was closing in, suffocating and stifling, wrapping itself around my chest like a vice. Maya seemed to sense it too. I could see her determination momentarily flicker, replaced with a flicker of confusion that mirrored my own. Jack, she murmured, her voice barely above a whisper. Are we really ready for this? Maybe we should go back. As much as her words resonated within me, I knew we couldn't turn back now. The laughter, the supernatural energy that coursed through the air pulled at my heartstrings with unrelenting urgency. We have to find out what this means. Whatever it is, it's tied to my grandmother's voice, and to all the shadows that linger here. Just as I said the words, the flickering bulb overhead dimmed further, casting elongated shadows across the walls that seemed to writhe like living entities. It was as if the darkness exhaled a breath, a foreboding sigh that resonated with my deepest fears, fear of what lay ahead and the realization of the burdens my family had carried for so long. Maya's fingers intertwined with mine, grounding me in her unwavering spirit. Together, then, she declared softly, her gaze fixed steadily ahead as if summoning courage against the tide of terror. We pressed on, and with each stride, the laughter grew more vibrant, resonating through the very fabric of my being. It was a sweet, innocent sound, a child's joy untainted, yet it held an edge, a warning that was creeping forth, barely masked behind layers of mirth. In that moment, the room shifted, the walls expanded and contracted as if breathing. I felt an unseen presence wrapping its fingers around my mind, each memory of joy and sorrow etched into the walls, now battling for dominance. Flickering visions filled my head. Happy moments with my grandmother, tears, arguments, laughter, loss, a kaleidoscope of emotions. Jack. Maya suddenly gripped my arm, pulling me from my stupor. Look. Her gaze was fixed on a small door partially hidden behind the draped shadows. Its surface was adorned with the same intricate carvings I had seen on the outer door. Yet this one pulsed with an inviting light, illuminating the dark corners of the room. That must be where the laughter is coming from, she exclaimed, hope igniting in her eyes. I hesitated, doubt gnawing at my conscience. What if it's a trap? Yet, deep down, I thought more about what was beyond that door than the dangers lurking in the dark. The warmth beckoned, drawing me in as if the house itself yearned for us to uncover its secrets. The thought of learning the truth behind my family's past overshadowed the lurking fears. Together, we approached the door. My hand trembled against the cool wood, and with a deep breath, I turned the knob, pushing the door open with a creak. The bright light spilled out, cascading over our weary faces. The room beyond was unlike any we had seen, a nursery, frozen in time. Sunlight streamed in through lace curtains, illuminating a plush rug adorned with whimsical patterns. Toys were carefully placed along the shelves, stuffed animals with bright, glassy eyes, dolls with painted smiles, but all felt eerily still. And in the center of the room stood a small child, hair golden like sunlight, twirling about in a frilly dress, laughter pouring from her lips like a bubbling brook. But as I took a step inside, the laughter faltered. The child froze, turning to face us with big, innocent eyes that suddenly sparkled with recognition. "Mama?" she whispered, her small voice breaking my heart into 1,000 pieces. "Is that you?" The air thickened once again. The sweetness of joy transformed into a bitter weight as the realization slapped me like a cold wind. I staggered back, my heart pounding relentlessly against my ribcage. the world spinning around us as Maya's hand tightened in fear. What just happened? She thought you were her mother? I don't know, I gasped, trying to process the implications of the child's words. A revelation began to unfurl. In the back of my mind, dark and ominous, images of my mother flooded back, her early departure, her absence overshadowed by my grandmother's protective stories, each narrating a past laced with melancholy. The child's face morphed from innocent joy to confusion, her brow furrowing. You're not my mama. You left me. A chill swept through me, every word cutting deeper than any blade. No, wait. Am not, I started, panic rising in my throat as I reached for her, only to feel an invisible barrier pull me back, the warmth fading as the whispers began to echo louder. "To leave is to forget," the child intoned, her voice growing colder. "And to forget means you're not really home." As those words landed, the lights flickered menacingly before dimming to darkness, plunging us into a void. I could hear Maya's breath beside me, ragged and frantic. The sensation of being pulled apart by forces beyond our control clawed at my psyche, for in that moment, it dawned upon me the truth I had unearthed was only the tip of the iceberg, and the fractured ties to my family's past were about to elude us in the total darkness. A composed yet ominous voice whispered, "You think you can reclaim what you've lost? The key lies not in the laughter but in the hearts left broken." My resolve faltered as dread washed over me. Just then darkness spiraled somersaulting toward us, consuming every flicker of joy. I felt the ground beneath my feet begin to tremble as the echoes of the past screeched like wild animals, a cacophony that threatened to drown my very existence. Before I could comprehend the implications of that chilling statement, an unseen force propelled us backward, gripping my heart with panic. In a final moment of clarity, just before the darkness claimed me, I heard Maya's distant voice calling my name, full of fear and sorrow. "Jack, don't let go." But as the scream faded from my mind, the darkness took hold and everything vanished, leaving only the echoes of broken promises and the undeniable truth. We had ventured into the heart of a haunted legacy, and we may never find our way out again. The silence hung heavily in the air as the world around us faded into an unsettling quiet, like a dream caught between moments of joy and despair. I gasped for breath as the darkness enveloped me, a palpable weight that threatened to crush my spirit. Every part of me was drawn back to the child in the nursery, her bewildered eyes staring right through me, accusing, demanding acknowledgement of a truth I hadn't been ready to face. "Jack, wake up." The sound of Maya's voice pierced through the chaos, a lifeline in a sea of shadows. My eyes flew open to find myself lying on the cold, hard floor. The room was dimly lit, its contours obscured, but I could just make out Maya kneeling by my side, her expression etched with fear, relief sweeping over her features as I blinked back the disorientation. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice trembling. You just disappeared." "That I don't know," I stammered, trying to catch my breath as fragments of memories collided in my mind. "I saw her, Maya. The little girl. I think she knew something about my mother. She thought I was her mother." The words she said, my voice trailed off as I struggled to process the weight of her accusation. It felt as if the walls themselves were closing in on me, the echoes of grief mingling with the throbbing pulse of the house, as though it wished to consume everything I once held dear. Maya's grip tightened around my hand, her strength anchoring me. "We need to get out of here. This place, it's not what we thought. It's a trap, Jack." "No." I pushed myself to a sitting position, the floor biting into my palms. "We can't leave. Not until I understand. There has to be a reason for this, why I felt so drawn to it, why the child called for me." The fear in Maya's eyes deepened, and I could see her resolve wavering. What if we uncover something dark? What if it could be the key to healing? I interrupted, the desperation in my voice rising as if to fill the void. "I can't walk away yet, Maya. I need to know if there's a way to bring my family together, somehow, even if it means facing darkness." With her gaze searching my face, I could see the conflict within her. She wanted to protect me, to keep me safe from the storm brewing just beyond the edge of our understanding. "Okay," she said finally, her voice soft but firm. "If you're sure, but we do this together, Jack. I won't let you face this alone." Yes, I nodded. I felt a flicker of hope igniting once more, a warmth that pierced the suffocating shadows. Before we could rise to our feet, however, I noticed something shimmering on the floor nearby. I leaned forward, squinting through the dim light to find a small, exquisite locket glimmering in the darkness. "Look!" I exclaimed, picking it up gingerly. The locket was cool to the touch, its intricate designs resembling the same carvings from the door. With trembling fingers, I unclasped it, but it didn't reveal a photograph or a keepsake. Instead, a tiny, folded note slipped free and fluttered to the ground. Slowly, I opened it to find delicate handwriting. "To remember is to save. Find the heart to reclaim the love left behind." "What does it mean?" Maya asked, peering over my shoulder. "I don't know, but it feels like a clue. Maybe it's related to my family, something that holds the truth." The words resonated where the fear once lay, illuminating a path amid the darkness. Maya's fingers brushed the locket softly, tracing the designs with curiosity. "This could be important. Perhaps it can guide us. But we still need to be careful." I slid the locket into my pocket, and we began to rise together, the air around us thickening with unanswered questions, and the echoes of the little girl's laughter still ringing in my ears. There was a door on the opposite wall, almost camouflaged by the swarm of shadows, beckoning us to discover what lay beyond. Despite the fear twisting in my gut, a sense of purpose began to bloom. "Let's find out what the heart is," I said, steadying my voice with a resolve I didn't wholly feel. As we approached the door, an unsettling chill swept through the room, causing the hair on my arms to stand on end. I paused, glancing back at Maya, who wore an expression of determination tinged with a hint of fear. I steeled my resolve, ready to face whatever lay behind that threshold. But as I reached for the doorknob, a sense of unease rippled through the air, as if something ancient was awakening at our intrusion. Before I could grasp the handle, the shadows around us began to swirl violently, and the walls shuddered with an otherworldly rumble. "Maya, step back!" I shouted, my heart racing as I stumbled away, only to watch in horror as the door started to form cracks, lines of darkness spiderwebbing outward like an angry whisper. Then, as quickly as it began, the movement stopped, the door swinging open to reveal an expansive void lined with shimmering lights that pulsed like distant stars in a darkened sky. Laughter filled the air once more, but this time it was fainter, more haunting, as if calling us into the depths of an endless night. What if we're not meant to go there?" Maya whispered, fear infusing her words. Just as I opened my mouth to respond, the laughter crescendoed, whirling around us, and the shadows surged forward, rushing into the space where we stood. A woman's voice shattered through the swirling chaos, echoing with a haunting familiarity that sent shockwaves through my very core. "Jack, save her." My pulse quickened. I knew that voice, it was my mother's. And with that revelation, everything spiraled into an abyss of uncertainty and terror. As the shadows reached out to pull us into the void, I felt the weight of a choice that could either bind us to the past or sever the ties that bound my heart to the home I had come to haunt. Maya's grip tightened around my arm, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and disbelief. "Jack, we have to go," she urged, tugging me away from the opening. But the voice lingered in the air like a soft caress, wrapping around my thoughts like ivy strangling a tree. "Save her," I whispered, my own voice barely more than a ghost. It echoed with the weight of unanswered questions and converging destinies. Who was she? What did salvation look like in a world where past mistakes mirrored the very shadows seeking to drown us? My pulse thudded in my ears as I stared into the swirling void. The lights glimmered promisingly but felt like an all-consuming abyss, its depths filled with echoes of a denial I could no longer afford. "Maya, what if we figured out what this means?" "Jack," she pleaded, desperation breaking through her composure. "You can't. We can't risk getting lost in there." But as the shadows surged around us, I could feel the weight of unspoken promises pressing down, urging me to step forward, to confront whatever lingering truth resided just beyond the threshold. "That I need to know," I replied, my voice steadier than I felt. "If there's even a small chance." I took a breath, wrestling with the trepidation clawing at my insides. "I can't let her down again." With a tremulous nod, Maya seemed to grasp the depth of my intention. "Together then," she whispered, her voice a thread of strength woven into the overwhelming silence. With one final glance at the tattered remnants of the room, I stepped into the void, pulling Maya along with me. The shadows embraced us, swirling with unexpected warmth, and for a fleeting moment, I felt family love cascade in waves around us as specters danced in the corners of my vision. The laughter faded, replaced by a reverberating heartbeat that pulsed through the darkness. We drifted through a shimmering chaos that snapped at the edges of my reality. Whispers of bygone moments and echoes of suppressed fears floated all around us. Jack, remember. An echo of my mother's voice urged again, now frayed and tired. Please, I murmured, almost pleading for clarity. What do I need to remember? Suddenly, the void shifted, morphing into fragmented visions. Fleeting glimpses of a woman in a vibrant garden, sunlight streaming through wildflower-filled meadows. I strained to capture these elusive moments, they felt so achingly familiar. Mom, I called, voice trembling, hoping against hope this journey could lead me back to her. But in place of a response, blinding light enveloped us, pressing against my eyelids as if it were saying, wake up. I squinted against the brightness, and as it began to clear, I found myself in a room unmistakably familiar, decorated with against memoria nursery filled with pastel toys. Walls adorned with pictures crafted from love. A tiny whimper broke through the silence, drawing my attention to a small crib at the far side of the room. As I approached, dread coiled in my gut, and I found the little girl from my vision peering at me with the same bewildered eyes. I was certain she looked just like my sister, the one I barely remembered. Mama? Her small voice echoed through the air. I froze, heart pounding. An involuntary rush of emotions cascaded through me: panic, longing, ultimately an all-consuming guilt that threatened to drown me once more. I had failed to protect my family. The relentless ache of that thought clung to me like damp fog. Maya appeared beside me, her expression one of protective resolve. What is happening, Jack? I don't know, I confessed, eyes locked onto the girl. But we can't ignore this. She's calling for something. Steeling myself, I reached to lift her from the crib when a sudden chill enveloped the room. Shadows began to twist and writhe along the walls, angry tendrils lunging toward us. Before I could react, a wave of darkness surged through the doorway, ripping open the thin veil separating us from whatever horror lay beyond. The girl's laughter flickered into a pair of hauntingly familiar eyes, morphing into someone I never expected to see again, the spitting image of my mother, her face a perfect collage of love and sorrow. Jack, she cried out, a specter yet so alive, reaching past the void into my heart. You cannot let them take her. You have to remember the love that binds you. Find it. In that moment, I realized that the paths I walked were tangled, but they also intertwined with unbreakable bonds forged by family. As I was engulfed in shadows fighting to swallow me whole, desperation burned bright. I had to save her. I had to save my family. But as the darkness began to whirl violently, cutting through this moment of clarity, I felt a sharp pull in my heart, a revelation that both terrified and exhilarated me. Maya, I gasped, urgency clawing at my chest. I think she's right. Love is the key, but it means confronting everything I've been running away from, the pain, the memories, the truth that I can no longer hide. Maya's eyes widened with realization. She took my hand tightly. Then we fight together, she said fiercely. But just as she spoke, the shadows erupted, crackling with rage as they lunged toward us. Jack. My mother's voice echoed, cut off by the chaotic cacophony of darkness enveloping us. A new surge of determination flooded through me as the child cried out, a high-pitched wail that pierced the veil. Mama, please. And in that moment, nothing else mattered. Whatever it took, I would confront the past, whatever it hid, and wrest away the future it sought to claim. As the shadows clawed at my sanity, and Maya's warmth anchored me in this tumultuous storm, I whispered the silent promise that formed on my lips. I will not let you go again. But as an inky darkness descended, wrapping every inch of this sanctuary in despair, I realized with a jolt that some promises come at a high cost, one that could change everything forever. The darkness pressed around us, suffocating and chaotic, and I gripped Maya's hand tighter, grounding myself in the warmth of her presence. There was a profound intensity radiating from within me, a burgeoning flame fueled by the love I had once neglected. The little girl's cries rang in my ears, an unyielding reminder of all I had lost. Focus, Jack. Maya urged, her voice breaking through the din of chaos. Remember the love, the connection. We have to find it. I took a deep breath, letting the memories of laughter and warmth flush through my veins. My mother's voice lingered, a bittersweet melody that woven into the fabric of my heart. Jack, remember? It echoed in my mind, an incantation to keep me anchored amidst the shadows. The crib, the child, it was all a manifestation of something deeper, a reflection of the pieces of my family that lingered, waiting to be saved. We're not giving up, I said, each word igniting a flicker of courage. Suddenly the shadows recoiled, momentarily stunned by my resolve. Taking this fragile opportunity, I stepped forward, rising against the vortex that spun around us. Mama, I cried, my voice breaking, desperate for an answer that felt just beyond my grasp. The mist thickened, swirling with faces lost in time, phantoms of regret casting lonely glances that pierced my heart. Each wail felt familiar, echoing the hollow silence left in my heart after the tragic loss of my family. Memories clawed at the edges of my mind, fragments of laughter, the warmth of my mother's embrace. Each tether pulled me closer to understanding that it wasn't enough to simply fight the darkness. I had to learn to illuminate the paths stained with sorrow. Maya, let's call to her, I urged, the realization dawning like a sunrise above a murky horizon. Together, she said fiercely, squeezing my hand once more. On the count of 3, 1, 2, from the depths of my soul, I summoned every ounce of love I had for my family, every memory that had shaped me, that gave me hope. The darkness writhed, sensing the shift in energy surrounding me. Freemum, I shouted, and Maya echoed, we won't give you up. Light exploded from our combined voices, illuminating the depths where shadows clung like a suffocating fog. Visions dashed before us. I saw my sister playing with sunlit daisies, laughter bubbling in the air, and my mother's soothing smile amidst bedtime stories and tender hugs. I felt them all surge through me, their love entwined with my strength. The shadows screeched, piercing cries of agony as they recoiled from the warmth flooding into the room. But just as we began to feel a glimmer of hope blossom, a chilling presence surged forward, slashing through the light we had created. Foolish children, a resonant voice thundered, steeped in bitterness and rage. A figure emerged from the shadows, an apparition wreathed in darkness, seemingly composed of all the horrors and regrets I had clung to for years. You cannot escape your past. It is eternally yours to bear. The silhouette shifted, morphing into specters of those I had failed to save. My parents, my sister, each one staring at me with haunting familiarity, shrouded in pain and judgment. You abandoned us, they cried, their voices merging into a cacophony of despair that threatened to eclipse the fragile light we had summoned at an. I shouted, the defiance erupting from the depths of my soul. I was lost. I was afraid. Each word became a battle cry against the smothering darkness. You taught me love, that's why I'm fighting. I need to bring you back. With every syllable, I felt the remnants of their love envelop me, pushing back against the suffocating despair. But the shadows shrieked louder, attempting to drown out my truth, consuming the room in waves of despair. Maya, I gasped as the pull of darkness grew stronger, and she was suddenly tugged away, her hand slipping from mine. No, I screamed, my heart lurching in terror. The shadows encircled her, binding her against the floor as a familiar voice hissed, let her go. In that moment, I witnessed my mother's face within the tumult, her gaze fierce, yet sad. You must remember, Jack. You can't do this alone. Dive deeper. Face the truth. An understanding dawned upon me. These shadows were not just enemies but reflections of everything I had buried. Fear, guilt, vulnerability. And they thrived on my pain. Turning inward, I closed my eyes and felt my breath synchronize with the chorus of my memories, every cherished moment, every ounce of love that they had left me with. With renewed determination, I plunged into the depths of my being, seeking the core of the truth hidden away. You are not forgotten, I declared, unleashing my love in a flood of warmth that eclipsed even my darkest fears. And just as I embraced the warmth, a profound clarity washed over me. I realized my family would always be with me, for their essence resided not in shadows but in the bonds forged through love. Together, I breathed, feeling strength surge through me as I summoned the love that had once felt too overwhelming to hold. But as I opened my eyes, my heart raced, realizing the shadows melted away, only to reveal a greater threat looming on the horizon. A figure tall and ethereal emerged, exuding a darkness I had never known. Its gaze locked onto mine, piercing through my newfound strength with a chilling promise. "You think you've won?" it whispered, its voice smooth but laced with malice. "You're still bound to the past. This is only the beginning." Terror sliced through me as I felt Maya slipping from my grasp, the shadows once again licking at the edges of our reality. I was left suspended between the love I fought for and the darkness that threatened to consume each cherished memory. And just like that, the light flickered. The shadows surged forward, filling the air with uncertainty, leaving us standing at the precipice of an unforgiving fate. The remnants of light still hung in the air, flickering like the last vestiges of hope. Darkness, relentless in its pursuit, wrapped around us like vines, tightening with every breath I took. I could feel Maya's struggle, a powerful current of fear coursing through her. I reached out, grasping at the thin threads of connection that tethered us and fought against the spiraling shadows. "Maya," I cried, desperation clawing at my throat. "Hold on to me. We can face this together." She looked up, eyes glistening with fear yet flickering with a resolve I'd grown to admire. "Jack?" But the shadows surged, drawing her further into their depths. I could hardly bear to see the fear etched into her face as she fought against the encroaching tide. I had promised I would protect her. "You're stronger than this," I shouted, pushing my feelings through the dark mist. "Remember why we're here." A gentle warmth spilled from my heart, a light not merely for myself but a beacon for Maya. As if sensing my conviction, the shadows hesitated, resonating with my memories of her laughter, her smile even in the darkest moments we had navigated together. Maya's expression shifted, determination stealing away her fright. "You're right," she breathed, and together we cast our gaze toward the abyss that sought to divide us. The connection we forged through every struggle surged like an unbreakable thread, tightening around our hands. "We will make it through." And with that we summoned our strength, our voices rising in unison. "You cannot break us," we shouted, my heart echoing her conviction. The darkness responded with a visceral screech, recoiling as if it were alive and wounded. But just as the tendrils began to withdraw, a figure loomed larger, more imposing than before. It was not merely a specter but something darker, formed from the deepest fears I harbored. The ethereal being wore my regrets like a shroud, each layer symbolizing a missed opportunity, a silent choice made under the weight of grief. Its piercing gaze bade me freeze. "Foolish children, didn't you learn? Your love will only bind you tighter to your despair," it hissed, mocking our strength. "Look at her. Do you truly think you can protect her? This is all your fault, Jack. Do you not deserve the pain?" Rage flared within me. The shadows clawed at my heart, echoing tales of failure, of moments severed from my grasp that had turned into regrets. Yet as I stared at Maya, still fighting against the chains of darkness, something else surged. A flicker of unwavering love resonated in my chest, quelling the tide of fear and self-doubt. I roared, my voice breaking the silence like thunder. "I refuse to let you dictate my worth. I fought for love, for family. It's the only path that matters." The darkness shuddered, as though my words had struck deep within its core. And for an instant, I saw a shadow of recognition in its twisted features, a fleeting moment of hesitation that made me press forward. I stepped toward it, ready to reclaim everything it had stolen. In that moment, amidst the chaos, an unexpected kindness shone. The very shadows that sought to entrap us, forged from pain and regret, began to shimmer. Within the darkness I glimpsed fragmented memories of my mother, her laughter cutting through the sorrow, a radiant light reaching out toward us. With the warmth of her spirit surrounding me, I caught a glimpse of Maya, her brows knit, determination mingling with curiosity. "Jack, your mother, she's trying to help." The realization settled like a bomb on my troubled heart, and I focused on the light she projected. "Mama?" I whispered, emotion flooding my voice. "Is it really you?" The shadows lurched, trying to drown me in a wave of despair that threatened to consume every ounce of joy. "You cannot turn back time," the dark figure snarled. "You are not worthy of her light." As it spoke, I felt Maya's hand clutch mine, and through the storm of uncertainty, an understanding blossomed within me. "No," I said softly, the warmth of the memories flooding back. "Love transcends this darkness. It's our strength." Together we turned toward the figure, hands raised, pouring every ounce of defiance and love into the air. Threads of warmth glimmered in the encroaching shadows, illuminating the space between us. But just as the depth of light began to push back against the dark, the figure let out a blood-curdling scream, a sound echoed by thousands of sorrowful shadows. You think this is over? You will always carry your past. It will lead to your downfall. Then, as if the very fabric of reality trembled, a violent tempest erupted around us, a whirlwind of echoes and shadows pulling at our essence. I felt something slipping away, a terrifying weight like the crumbling of earth beneath my feet. Maya! I screamed, twisting around just in time to see her pulled from my side. The shadows no longer just encroaching but closing in fast, a swirling vortex including her in its grasp. No! My heartbeat thundered in my chest as the fear of losing her overwhelmed me, my voice barely a whisper against the cacophony. I won't let you go. But just as quickly as the shadows enveloped her, a blinding flash of memory seared through Maya's warm embrace, a familiar laugh, the soothing touch of a mother's love, each stitch tying my heart to her essence. And in that devastating moment, a new realization hit Maya, a deep, stark truth. It wasn't just the sacrifice of love I needed to hold. It was the courage to face the inevitability of my mistakes. As shadows swallowed the glimmers of hope, I braced myself against the turbulent grip of despair, clenching my heart, my vision clouded with tears as I reached into that dark abyss. Together, I whispered, knowing my fight was far from over. The time for reckoning had not yet arrived, and with Maya lost to the darkness, it became clear. I still had work to do. And in that pivotal moment, as the winds howled and shadows twisted around me, the echoes of love rang true, but the line to save her could sever me from my remaining light. The abyss closed in, and somehow, I knew that if I didn't find a way to untangle the rim of shadows, I would lose both my family and the right to rebuild it. I braced myself, feeling the warmth of her essence fading, caught between the certainty of loss and the radiant pain of hope. The darkness engulfed me, a chaotic swirl that threatened to drown out reason, echoing with the cries of those I had lost. But within that void, a spark of clarity ignited. The shadows might claim my body, but they could never possess my heart. Realization struck like lightning, a truth buried so deeply beneath grief and regrets. The shadows could only thrive on fear and despair. They had no dominion over love. Think, Jack. I rasped, my voice trying to rise above the crashing weight of darkness. You are not defined by the past, your dreams, your familiar woven into the very essence of you. I reached deep into the reservoir of memories that embraced me, feeling the warmth of my mother's smile, the joyous laughter of my little sister, moments that stitched together a foundation strong enough to weather any storm. With renewed fervor, I charged into the dark whirlwind, my heart pounding with determination. You will not take her from me, I bellowed, my voice cutting through the chaos. The shadows recoiled slightly, hesitant against the force of my resolve. The swirl shifted as if the darkness hesitated, unsure how to respond to my defiance. Jack! Maya's voice pierced through the din, rising above the confusion. Fight for us together. Encouraged by her words, I steadied my breath, forcing my fears from the cracks of my heart into the open air. The shadows around me twisted, attempting to snuff out the flickers of hope that ignited within. Maya, I gasped, as if uttering her name was a lifeline anchoring me in the tumult. You're not just a shadow in this nightmare. We hold the power to change everything. We can redefine what love means. It's not a weighing anchor but the strength to push through. Together, we focused on the light that flickered inside us, fears in admission molded into fierce determination. I felt her presence alongside me, tethering us, empowering us to resist the chasm that sought to consume our very essence. We weren't just fighting for ourselves. We were fighting to reclaim everything the darkness threatened to erase. I clenched my fists. The love we bear is our shield. With every ounce of energy, I extended my arm, feeling the luminous lifeline extending from my heart surge toward Maya's anxious grasp. The shadows recoiled again, their chaos momentarily stilled by unexpected warmth. Find the heart to reclaim the love left behind. The whisper of my grandmother echoed through the void. I remembered the Lakev message infused with love as a map to finding not just answers but closure. Driven by courage, I wove through the echoing chaos with Maya beside me, every heartbeat synchronizing between us, forming a lifeline strung tight against disappointment and despair. As we moved forward, the whirlwind of shadows intensified, spiraling greedily around us as if sensing our determination. You must understand that pain is eternal, the figure roared from within the shadows, each word dripping with bitterness. You bear the weight of loss. No, I shouted defiantly. Pain may linger, but so does laughter, and it's not a burden, it's a bond. I can carry it all because love never fades. I won't let your darkness rewrite my story. And with that, I thrust my arms upward toward the oppressive gloom, summoning every piece of light and love that resided within me. It spilled forth, illuminating the shadows, enveloping the darkness in a wash of brilliant energy. I could feel Maya's warmth next to me, her conviction intermingling with mine, igniting a blaze that shattered the night. The shadows writhed furious. Come back, little shadows. The figure cried, struggling against the encroaching light. You cannot forget. You will remain bound. But we held strong, our bond unbreakable as the light continued its ascent. The tendrils of darkness recoiled, fragmenting with every ounce of love we invoked. I felt the energy crackle and pulse, blooming like the first rays of dawn. You're wrong, I declared. You think we're bound by our past? We're liberated by our love. As dawn's light bathed the dark, tendrils of shadows shrieked in agony, pulling back, darting as if to escape the impending sunshine. I could feel the warmth of my family flooding into my chest, connecting with every piece of unyielding resolve. Maya's laughter intertwined with mine as together we began to rise. Flowing into the light that blossomed around us, the shadows began to disintegrate, fading into the very air they had once tried to consume. In a moment suspended in time, I glimpsed the faces of my family, enveloped in love and warmth as their memories poured into the radiance we had created. I'm so sorry, I whispered, overwhelmed with emotion. I should have fought sooner. But they simply smiled, understanding flooding through the depths of my heart. Just then the last of the shadows faded, the dark figure collapsing into the remnants of despair that dissolved like ash on the breeze. The air around us shimmered, glowing with a brilliant light that lit the once darkened corners of the room. The oppressive weight lifted, and I turned my gaze toward Maya, her eyes glimmering with the reflections of distant memories. Memories we both shared now. We did it, I breathed, my heart swelling as the love surrounding us began to mend the scars etched into my spirit. Yes, Maya said softly, her smile illuminating the path forward. But this is just the beginning. Together, we stepped into a chorus of colors pouring into the universe, a brilliant reminder that love endures, healing the fragmented pieces that life once shattered. The house that had haunted us became a beacon of hope, no longer a vessel of sorrow, but a sanctuary of beginnings. And as we stood hand in hand, brimming with newfound purpose, I knew we would create our own chapter, a chapter intertwined with echoes of our past, but free from the shackles of despair. Together, we'll write this story, I declared, looking into Maya's eyes, feeling the warmth radiating from our intertwined fates. A story of hope, of healing, of reclaiming love. As we stepped out of the house that had once loomed heavy with ghosts of the past, I whispered the final realization that shaped my journey. A single truth binding us as we face tomorrow anew. In every ending, a new beginning awaits. With the sun rising over the horizon, we walked forward into the light, the promise of a future filled with laughter, love, and the resilience that only comes from embracing the journey of letting go.